Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the History of Fan Anime. I'm your host, William Chow, and in today's episode, I'm going to cover, a little bit of the big topic of cosplay at conventions. Sort of like this a hierarchy or a clique kind of thing that sort of has cropped up and has appeared in our conventions recently in basically the field of cosplay. Okay, so I'm going to go back and sort of illustrate sort of how it sort of kind of occurred and what is sort of happening with it. Okay, so in modern day conventions, we've always go and see many people dressed up as different characters and whatnot, and of course now a lot of anime conventions are now inclusive of all these other types of fan genres, including superheroes or or other popular movies and that kind of stuff in popular culture. Now, this has always been the case at places like the San Diego Comic Convention and that kind of stuff, where primarily a lot of the cosplay and that kind of stuff was obviously from comics. Okay, but this wasn't always the case. I mean, even in the early days, wearing a costume was always kind of thought of as being kind of weird. Okay, especially with, for example, even in the early days, with people who wore, like Star Trek uniforms, they were always thought as being weird. They were termed Trekkies, okay, and this word, okay, although we still use it a little bit now, Trekkies kind of has a bad connotation to it. It meant, basically it meant you were some sort of nerd, some sort of weirdo, you weren't normal. I mean, sure, you liked Star Trek or whatever, but, it meant a little bit more than that, okay? They have a whole particular movie called Trekkies made for them, okay? And in many ways, anime has the same kind of connotation, okay? Anime, of course, at this time has, their term otaku, okay? And again, this word also has a bad connotation to it. It doesn't just mean, oh, you're just a big fan of anime. Oh, you could. That's what the literal translation of it is, right? But it also is this meaning that you are, again, some sort of weeboo, if you will. You are you're watching anime, but you're one of these guys that kind of has no friends, lives on his own, watches anime at night, and the only thing he watches is, and at this time, okay, a lot of the anime titles were, of course, a little bit on the risque side, right? Maybe not necessarily hentai titles, but you got to think of things like, even movies like Macross, Megazone 23, Exterior 1, Dirty Pair, all right? They all focused on the three Gs, as I initially said, where it's all about girls with guns and needs gore, right? And again, animes that basically pander to the male audience, okay? So again, this sort of bad connotation to anime sort of occurs. So if you dress up as an anime character, you are then similar to like a Star Trek guy, a Trekkie, okay? And so that's why a lot of things like cosplay and that stuff are not treated the same way. You're kind of shunned away. You're kind of what's that weirdo over there kind of thing. You're the guy who gets your finger pointed at you, okay? Now, speed ahead a little bit. We're now entering 94 or that kind of area, okay, where anime has reached, a status where they, and enough interest that they can now have anime conventions that stand on their own. They don't have to share a convention with the Star Trek conventions, or they don't have to share a convention with the sci-fi convention. They don't have to share, Comic-Con, okay. They can now actually have their own anime conventions. And of course, with an anime convention, we now can put all the different things that have to do with, basically wearing a costume, okay? You're invited to wear a costume. You want to be part of the group, right? We want to make it that if you are a fan of anime, it's okay to wear a costume. Okay, so starting around '94 is where this sort of this independent movement of all these anime conventions started occurring, and they basically started having all these different events which promoted cosplay, and this is where the dichotomy starts happening. Okay, just as soon as you add a competition or that kind of stuff, or this competitiveness in doing cosplay type of things, just like in a school, like high school or a sorority, this sort of hierarchy starts sorting itself out. Okay, and what I mean by this is that most of us, when who go to the convention, let's say 90, 85, 90, 95% of us who go to a convention, we're just gonna grab a costume, make a costume, plan out a costume to go to one, and we're just gonna wear a costume because we want to be part of the festivities. We want to be part of the convention, and we want to kind of fit in, if you will. Okay, but there are certain people, that when they go to these conventions, then they want to enter into these competitions, just like you would have a prom queen or whatever. We have anime idols, we have anime costume competitions, we have masquerades, and even at the things like masquerades, we give out prizes and that kind of stuff, and we have other cosplay workshops, and we have cosplay the talks and that kind of stuff. We have games like cosplay chess and things like that, all having to do with basically bring content to the convention. All right, just like you would have at a school, where you have a prom queen or a beauty contest or that kind of thing, and then of course we give prizes to the winners and that kind of stuff, give notoriety to the winners, and then the situation sort of occurs where if a person wins or something, then they somehow gain this notoriety of being above everybody. Just like how a prom queen or the valedictorian of a particular class is above everybody else. Now, valedictorians, once they get, basically, once they get elected or once they get chosen to be the valedictorian, they do their speeches and pictures and basically be the representative of the students. But then afterwards, they move on, they graduate, and that's it, right? But with cosplay winners, for example, just because you win or place in a cosplay competition, the next year, they should create new costumes and that kind of stuff. But then what ends up happening is that they end up deeming themselves higher than everybody else because they've won an idol competition or they've won a cosplay competition, and somehow they're deeming themselves higher. Higher standard, higher a better cosplayer, shall we say, a different class of cosplayer, if you will. They become, their own entity, their own sort of, clique, if you will, right? And they will basically attract people that will, not only support them, but also, or want to be as part of their, group or something like that. Just the same way in high school, where the popular girls kind of hang together, and then everybody else is just the schlubs that kind of are around, the dirt that everyone walks on. So I mean, I said the number of them is always is not very large, and in some cases, most people that go to conventions and stuff don't even run into these type of people, but what ends up happening is that these people, start becoming, closer and part of the runnings and integral parts of the convention. They want to be noted more. They want to, have things done to themselves. Of course, they use social media and that kind of to build themselves up as idols or cosplay experts and that kind of stuff. Just because they've won competitions or whatever, or they've done something in their trait or their class that's shall we say a little bit better than everybody else. It makes them the expert, if you will. Okay. And which is fine. There are obviously different skill levels of of how you can cosplay and how you can do things, but it's the attitude that transpires. Instead of the wellness towards the community instead of the self promotion of oneself and this policing of of these shall we say fictional standards that cosplayers need to be, okay? And again, just because I decide, well, I'm too lazy to build my own costume, I'm just gonna go to like the Halloween store and buy a costume and say, here you go, this is my thing, done. Or I'm too lazy to make a costume, I'm just gonna wear a cardboard box and say Gundam written on it, and then there we go, that's my cosplay. Too bad if you spent 3 weeks making yours and I spent 3 seconds making mine. Who are you to judge me? And that's sort of what happens, right? Is that, somehow because of how I made a costume, that makes me different or worse than everyone else who tries to make a costume or is wearing a costume. And this sort of dichotomy has basically gotten into our convention system. And it's one of these things that obviously won't go away as long as we continue to basically search for content in our conventions having to do with cosplay. Okay, and again, with the way that the anime industry is, we're having less and less Japanese guests and commercial sponsors, and we're also having less vendors who are actually who actually come to our conventions to sell or promote products and whatnot. We basically have to look for a lot of homegrown content to basically fill our content and to fill our dealer's room full of customers, right, or dealers or vendors, right. And so thus we are enabling, and we're also self-reinforcing these particular people at the convention. Again, if you're a cosplayer and you just going to a convention just to do your cosplay, and that's really all you're there for, you only basically do it once or twice a year, maybe put it up on, obviously maybe wear the costume during Halloween. Sure, you're probably like the 80-95% of the population out there. You don't care. You just want to have fun. Done. You don't plan to be part of the cosplay contest and make out a skit and all this other stuff, and or you just want to maybe do a little bit of karaoke, and that kind of stuff. You don't want to get on a stage and sing in front of thousands of people. That's fine, okay? You're like the majority of everything, okay? There is, and that's what this episode's about, this little pocket of this niche sort of thing that sort of happens within cosplayers, and I'm just relating that to the fact that it's almost like a high school girl clique, almost, as it were, and how it sort of also occurs the same sort of way with with prom queens and that kind of stuff. That sort of occurs. That also exists at our conventions. And as long as you know this exists, and if you ever run into these type of people, that that, okay, they've been enabled by the convention and this entire theme to be like this. Okay. Just acknowledge that it does exist, and you can handle it which way you do. All right. So, I know it's a little bit of a long estimate, a little bit of long me going out on a topic, but again, this is about the history of how anime and how certain things have happened. And so I'll comment on them and actually document that this sort of trend and this sort of things occur. Okay, so what you want to do right now is go down below, click like, click subscribe, and I'll get into more different topics, and of course, bring in some other cool stuff in for you to see next episode. Okay, so until next time, see you again.